So before I get carried away and I start doing my soldering, I am going to take the pins out of the bottom base. Now I've actually gone and tied these two wires here together at the end, the positive with the positive and the negative with the negative. And I actually did put a little bit of solder on them already and then tested them out to see if they work, which they do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attempt to solder this to the ends that they need to be soldered to. And as you can see, I have soldered my wires and the connections aren't that bad, even though my soldering skills are not that great. So the next step I'm going to be doing is just taking my column now and adding some glue to the one side of the column that has the hole in it. And then take the 3/4 inch tile and glue that one on there like that. And then we will add the pins to hold that in place. We will do the same with the other one and make sure that they're opposite of each other. And then do the same thing. Actually, if you just let it sit here, line it up the best you can. Make sure they're as square as possible. You could probably just set them off to the side and let them dry without putting any pins in them. But if you want to put pins, go right ahead. So we'll let those dry and then we'll move on to the next step. Now that my column is dry, both sides, and I got my wiring all set and all complete, I ran it through here. So what I'm going to do next is assemble the column now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the lights through the holes. Do the same thing with this one. Now, as you can tell, let's get this one through there. As you can tell, they are a little loose in there. That's really no big deal because once we put the brickwork on it and everything else, it should work just fine. And we'll put this together like this and we'll glue it. Now you see I have all this extra wire. That's a good thing and a bad thing, because now I'm going to have to force all this wiring in there and try to attempt to hide it inside there. And hopefully I've got room and I can work this in there. I actually might have to just take this out and then just run this wire back through afterwards. It's going to be complicated. Last time I made one of these, the wiring was shorter. I still had to mess around with the wiring, so hopefully this will hold up and not fall apart on me while I'm running the wiring through. So for now, I'm just going to glue this together and then put some pins in it, and then we'll come back and we'll try to figure out how we're going to do this wiring. So for now, I am just going to take my tacky glue and my pins and just glue this together and let it dry. Okay, we'll let that dry and have to come back to it later. Okay, I was able to push my wiring up through the column here. The only problem I'm having right now is the lights. I want them to sit like that, pretty much. The only problem is when I let them go, they kind of pop out and everything else. And it's got to do because of all the wiring being pushed up there and kind of pushing on it. I'm going to have to try to find a way to take some of the wall bricks and kind of pin them in position and then glue the lights kind of to the bricks and everything with the tacky glue, and probably have to hold it there until it's dry. So that's going to be kind of the hard part. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do. The other way I could probably fix this whole problem is to pull all the wiring out and cut the wires shorter and resolder them. So that would be another option to do, so you'd have less wiring. So if this doesn't work the way I want it to, that's probably what I'm going to do. So let's see what happens. So what I'm going to attempt to do for now is build the bricks up along here and get them in there and see if I can't somehow support those wires in there a little bit better so they're not sticking out that far and that funky. So basically that's all I'm going to do, is just work on the brickwork for now, and then we'll figure out how this is going to work out for us. So hopefully you guys can see this, but what I'm doing is I'm just putting up some of the bricks, and I've taken this center brick here and I kind of pushed it up on it, and then I took a pin and pushed it through. I see that I'm still going to have to work with this, so I'm just going to build up here and above it and try to position it where I want it, and then add some more tacky glue and possibly hold it in place for a while, and hopefully I can get it to stay there. So that's the trick that I'm working on. Okay, now I don't know how well you guys can see this on the camera, but I have quite a bit of pins in there holding some of this stuff in. I decided to give it a little lip here and a little lip here, so like it looks like the torch is sitting in the hole, but the brick there will be kind of keeping it from falling out. I know I didn't do that with these, but of course I used less wire than I did with this. So with the pre-wired lights, what I should have done, and I'll remember that next time, is to cut the wires shorter so I don't have to force all this wiring up there. And then when the wires go in, they would probably sit better at an angle, because they're just going up and then out the hole, and they'd be kind of sitting like they should. I think this is about the best I'm going to get. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue with my brickwork and then test this light out and see if it's still working. Which I honestly can do that right now. So let's see if this still works. And it does. I barely even have it plugged in and it's working. So that's a plus. Okay, I think this is about as good as it's going to get. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off these edges with a sharper blade than my other one there. And then I will glue some tiles on that side. And then I'll do the bottom and the top. And then we'll work on the lighting. So that's basically where we're at right now with this project. So I'm just going to run this down and cut these off. Pretty simple. Well, now that we are done with this and it's all glued together, it's all dry hopefully, we're just going to take some Mod Podge with some black paint. This was something that Jeremy from Black Magic Crafts came up with, and I use it all the time. It works great. It seals the project really well, and when you're putting your final coat of sealant spray to seal it, this keeps it from the spray of the Minwax or anything else that you use to seal it from eating at the foam at all. So I'm just going to, before I even start doing that, technically, what I want to do is I want to take these lights, cover them up with some tape, just so they don't get any of this on them on accident. I want to keep those lights as clear as possible. So that's it. We're just going to tape it up and then continue on with the Mod Podge and just sealing this bad boy up. And that's pretty much it, guys. Just make sure you get in all the crevices and everything else as good as you can. Now that my Mod Podge is all dried up and it's all ready for paint, the colors I'll be using are Pewter Gray, Coffee Latte, Camel, and Gilded Oak. So before I get any further, on the original light I used these jewel pieces. I'm not even sure what they're called. I found these in the jewelry area, of course, of Hobby Lobby. Saw these and I thought they would be perfect for torches or something else. Who knows, you know, all kinds of cool things you can come out with, probably with this. I also got these tiny itty bitty hooks, and they're like eye hooks, but very, very small. I'm sure you guys can't even see that really at all, but it's threaded at the end, and I'm sure it's used for something like soft pine, making your own little like jewelry box or something like that, but they just screw in, and I've got one in the one I'm working on now, and I just clipped it and then just painted it black and inserted it in there, so later on I can take one of these sets of keys, and I actually take this little loop that's right here and I cut it off, and I just use the original big loop and hang that on there. So I hope you liked that episode of the LED torch dungeon column. Now that I've completed 2 of them, I would like to make some more, but now I've got a couple other things rattling around up here in the old noodle. I might make some dungeon prison cells to go with this. That would be interesting. Maybe I'll put some LED lights on them too. You never know. I know I have some other LED projects that I want to do. So you never know what's going to happen. So to all my loyal subscribers and hopefully future subscribers, please hit that subscribe button, click that notification button, and like always, ring that like button like a hunchback. Until next time, guys.